All right, let's get started. I'm going to chat a little bit about some of the innovative work that we've been doing at Tempo to drive data-driven decision-making in a closed-loop scenario for modern portfolio management. Hi, I'm Shannon Mason. I run strategy at Tempo. I'm super stoked today to talk about kind of the promise of data, as well as the promise of what happens when we can use that data connected to our ability to plan. I don't know if any of you feel a little bit like this, but 15 years ago, I remember having a conversation with my chief data architect, and they said, big data, it's going to be amazing. And I kept expecting us to actually realize something amazing with that information. It felt like I was promised an amazing jetpack that was actually going to transport me to a new location, a new place where I could make a really good, informed decision about how I should manage my portfolio. But in fact, that really hasn't happened, and that's actually been the definition of where we've been focusing on at Tempo. So 1 year ago, we were here at Team, perhaps you were here at Team, and we talked about what would it look like for us to really expand upon the concept of modern portfolio management and program management, and really have data be at the backbone of all of the decisions that we make, so that frankly, we could probably limit the amount of hippo decisions that happen, highest paid person's opinion, right? Data is always a really good counteractivity for that. We're a year ahead now, and we've built some really interesting things that have given us some insight into the problems that a lot of organizations suffer from when they're using data to actually try to inform decision making, but not necessarily leveraging that closed loop. So some common issues that we see. The first one, we're not really a data-driven culture, right? So we have buckets of information, we have buckets of data, but we don't take the time to actually analyze that information and then transfer it into something that we can action against. So what does the insight give us if we don't actually derive some insight from it? The data quality itself is crappy, garbage in, garbage out. So we have not a lot of trust or faith in the information. And oftentimes that's related to the silos that we're creating within our organization around how that data gets managed. The next is that we don't actually invest in this as a function inside of our organization or inside of our teams or inside of programmatically how we're managing all of the information that's coming in. And then we wait. We wait for that data then to connect. We wait for that data to actually come in. But more than anything, what we see right now, especially in Tempo's data with organizations that we work with closely with our solutions partners and ourselves, is that there's a short-term focus on what sort of reward we can get almost instantaneously versus leveraging data to make near-term, mid-term, and long-term decisions that actually impact how we're thinking about our organization strategically. On top of this, what we've also seen is that data highlights a big set of challenges that the organization is usually fundamentally suffering from. So the data is just a symptom of bigger problems that the organization has. And at Tempo, that's been how we've been focusing our efforts on program and portfolio management as organizations look to achieve a really mature model for how they think about their products, how they think about their solutions and their services in a really tight, data-integrated way to inform the strategic decisions that they make. A couple challenges we're seeing with organizations around this particular area. The first one is the misalignment in effort. So we have a lot of people, like lemmings sometimes, chasing that idea into a particular direction and not necessarily investigating whether or not it's the best place for us to spend our time, effort, energy, and attention. The second is that there's a lot of tool-led transformation, right? If we just get a tool in place and we shove some information into that tool, perhaps we'll get the insight in order to drive the behavior patterns that will actually change how our organization is operating. And then finally, what we're seeing is a lot of underserved leaders who don't have the right access to information to actually make great decisions in that democratized fashion. This is a group that's especially hard hit. They feel this challenge acutely. They feel the challenge of not having the right information, of being kind of crushed and clobbered by those highest paid person opinions and decisions, the leadership decisions that are made, as well as trying to support sometimes ultra large programs and program execution. At Tempo, we lovingly refer to this person as Val, and they live in a space called the squishy middle. So they're getting crushed by all of the layers around them in terms of how do they solve for these particular choices and these particular decisions and leverage data in a highly democratized infrastructure that might not necessarily be giving them the sort of insight and the sort of information that they're looking for. The other thing that we know about Val is that they are highly adept at leveraging tools. This is the future leader inside of an organization, your future CEO. They've grown up using tool sets, they've grown up with large access to data, and they're used to traversing a lot of those tools. However, and I think we probably all can agree, they have a lot of trouble getting some of their execs into tools in order to get to the visibility that they're looking for. So for Tempo, what we've been focusing on specifically is how do we make sure that we move from point-based solutions that give individual points of information, individual solutions, into something that actually provides a holistic feel for that person that lives in this space where they're trying to answer questions for their executive leaders and then also support the teams and teams of teams that they manage. What we've been focusing on is aggregating that information and transcending it and sending it all across our products so that Val doesn't need to shift and configure different data across all of our solutions. They just need to go and ask that question in our products and get that answer. The example that you're looking at behind me, I call our sunk cost sinker, because what we do here is take a roadmap that might be part of how the executive team interacts with the giant portfolio management process, but isn't necessarily how the executive team understands whether or not we're running too hot. Val oftentimes is concerned with whether or not we're running efficiently and effectively within budget. We pull all of that information in and give them visibility into whether or not they're on track, on time, on target, and on budget without Val also needing to be an MBA. Here's all the work. Are we on time? Is it actually going to be on time? And is it on budget? Let's answer that question for her. What we've also been focusing at Tempo is modularizing this so that as the organization that Val works within changes and matures, the solution set that they're able to leverage changes and matures with them. What this means is that you can build and connect all of our different products together without necessarily having to configure individual connections between all of our data sets. We take the same data set and send it around all of our products without having to make Val understand how to send that data around. For us, this is really focusing on a few core solutions that were focused within Tempo. The first is around modern strategic portfolio management. So something that I think we're all familiar with. How does an organization look at its products, its portfolio, its human, and then balance that investment across everything that they're looking to achieve from a strategic roadmap situation? The second is agility at scale. Most organizations now would fancy themselves to be agile. And what we really want to make sure is that within that structure, you can see everything that's occurring within your organization, whether or not they're focused on Kanban as a process, whether or not they're focused on Scrum, whether or not they're doing Scrumban or any version of chaos. And finally, the other area that we're focused on from a solution standpoint and have built this unique solution to anchor around is IT service management and modern IT portfolio management. All of these things all together are really for Tempo what we see as the modern view of portfolio management. If you have efficiency and effectiveness in each one of these core pillars, you're oftentimes on your path to an effective portfolio management view within your organization. With this investment that we talked about a year ago around connecting all of this data, one of the things that was also really important for us is that we provide spaces for leadership to really interact with and engage with their teams, as well as being able to shift strategic roadmaps really simplistically into Jira for portfolio and program execution. So we've introduced a push-button solution that allows a team to collaborate, build a strategic roadmap, a mid-range roadmap, even just a product-based roadmap, and then essentially click a button and transition that work into Jira for program management and execution. No configuration, no requirement to understand exactly which project it connects to, and we aggregate that data without relying upon admins in order to get that fidelity. This was really important to us because what we want people to be able to do is really focus on areas that we know are critical, like capacity management. Another area that we focused on at Tempo is something called capacity insights. I can build a beautiful roadmap, I can think of a beautiful plan, but if I don't actually understand whether or not our effort is going towards those particular buckets of work, then that's wasted time and that's wasted energy. Through capacity insights, what we have the ability to do is understand whether or not your humans are really working in the direction of the effort that the company is looking to achieve from a strategic standpoint. And then visualize whether or not we're wasting effort in directions that don't make sense. Shift that plan, and then readjust it all the way back into our roadmap. Another area that we're extremely excited about is connecting Jira into our predictive planning engine. So I encourage everybody here to go head over to our booth, check out what we've built, because this allows you to look at the changes and shifts with your Jira plan and then understand whether or not your teams have the capacity to actually achieve that plan within a greater than 90% reasonability fit. All of this work is really aligned to a couple core areas that we're focused on. There are 5, and these are really 5 on the maturity spectrum of organizations that we see as they move into a modern portfolio management approach. The first is that organizations are oftentimes just looking for visibility, and so we really want to make sure you have that visibility by being able to lay out your plan and connect that into your programmatic execution plan. The second is that that plan needs to be realistic, so we want to connect it with whether or not you truly have the capacity to do it, whether or not you actually have the funding to do it, and then give you the ability to pivot that plan based off of that data. My favorite area, of course, to focus on is sunk costs. Does it make sense for us to continue investing in this particular area, the number of humans that we might have in this particular area, and all of that leads to our ultimate vision, which is around allowing all the organizations that we work with the ability to pivot on a dime based off of real-time data, not based off of hoping that we're going in the right direction. This is leading to our real big push for this year. Last year, we told you that we were going to integrate all of this into a closed loop system. We're on that path and we've delivered on that. This year, where we're really looking to go is to take that AI-driven model, be able to actually build adaptive scenario planning for organizations so that we can leverage the miles and miles and miles of data that organizations have. So you spend more time thinking about whether or not the plan and the work that's going into the plan is the right work, and less time focusing on whether or not the plan can actually happen. This adaptive and automated planning is the future. It's where the world is going in terms of how we should think about our humans, how we should think about our competencies within our teams. And so aligning all of this for us at Tempo to your strategic roadmaps and that execution is part of our core goal. The other big piece for us is low friction. We want to make sure that everything that your organization is doing doesn't require a lot of cognitive load or a lot of overhead amongst your people in order to understand whether or not that data is going to the right places. We're smart enough to help you understand how that data is aligned to the work, and so that extensibility to other systems, pulling in that data, help you understand how it's connected into your plans, is part of our process. Ultimately, the organizations that we're working with leave more informed, they're more focused, they're ultimately more predictable, which is one of the things that I'm always excited about, and they're pivotable. This is part of the suite and structure that we've built that allows you to have that wonderful closed-loop system, really interact with everybody in your organization, whether they're inside of Jira or outside of Jira, and it delivers some jetpacks today. So why wait? Come join us on this journey. If you're really excited about what you heard, we're right over there in the corner. We're doing demos of our closed loop system, and I'd love to chat with you all about it. Thanks for coming to my chat. I'm Shannon, and we're Tempo. Thanks, Roger.
Great job.
Oh, thank you.